Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here this March 2nd, 2025, a Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. Uh, Last night, I was watching and my jaw was dropping open. Especially when I heard that I was watching Fox News and I heard that Trump, where is it here? Breaking. President Trump invites Vladimir Putin to the United States. And Trump is invited to Russia. Uh, okay. We got a scale of 1 to 10. Danger of nuclear war. Okay? So, all the time in my life up to the year 2020, I would say the danger of nuclear, let's put it at a 5. The danger is there, is present, but it wasn't to a 10. A 10 is when you have a total nuclear war and the world is blowing up. That's a 10, right? A nuclear on the scale, right? So this last administration got in, and they had their 4 years. During that 4 years, we had, during COVID and all that, and the Ukraine war and Russia and the Ukraine war, and the intensification of that war, it led up to a place where we climbed from a 5 on that scale of danger of nuclear war to a 6, to a 7, to an 8. And I would say we went all the way up to a 9. We were getting darn close, especially when Russia launched that Orishnik missile, and they also launched a Sarmat. The Sarmat blew up in the silo, but the Orishnik missile flew, and it actually landed on the city in Ukraine. Intermediate range ballistic missile. Uh, we were close. But this change, all of a sudden, there was a sea change that happened, and I didn't think it was going to amount to that as much as it is. It's intensifying. Look at this. President Trump invites Vladimir Putin to the United States, and they're talking about doing business together. I was just floored last night. I was listening to this stuff. Vladimir Putin is hinting at offering rare earth minerals deals to the United States. They gotta start selling stuff back and forth, rare earth minerals. So Zelensky says, they say, okay, Zelensky's got rare earth minerals. Let's sign a deal. And Zelensky's hesitating to sign the deal. Well, Putin come up last night and he says, yeah, we got rare earth minerals. We got way more than Ukraine has. Boy, gosh, we're loaded with them. Take a look at this. Here's a map of Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Yeah, but see where they're at? See the red part? Occupied by Russia? That's on the other side of the Dnipro River, on the Russian side. I shouldn't say Russian side because that's occupied. On the Russian side that's occupied, that's where all the minerals are and stuff. A lot of them anyway. I mean, Ukraine's mineral resources. They got graphite, they got manganese, iron, beryllium. That's one of the rare earths, I guess. Lithium. That's a rare earth. Uranium, titanium, zirconium, polymetallic, non-ferrous metal, and rare earths. Now, the rare earths are in orange on this chart. See where they're at? They're in occupied territory. But not only that, they're hesitating to sign the deal or whatever. This whole thing's in the works right now. This whole thing's in the works. And it could take the air out of the war. Like, the war, looking at it like it's a balloon ready to pop. These trade deals and stuff, and starting to work together to get these rare earth minerals and stuff. So Putin was there, and he says, you think Ukraine's got rare earths? He said, you think they got them? He said, we got them, Russia. He said, and he went to list off all the different spots where they got rare earths, like in Russia. It's like, he was going through a list for like 5 minutes of all the different spots in Russia where they got these rare earth minerals, And so he's hinting at doing deals, and the West is because rare earths are going to be a big thing, And so they're talking about these deals. This whole thing could change. I never seen anything that could change so fast. Ukraine war could, seriously. But on the other side of this coin, we got tremendous danger if it doesn't. If something goes wrong and the whole thing blows up, well, like Trump's been telling you, this could cause World War III. But right now, I've never been so hopeful that a deal's going to get through and all those young men are not going to have to die on the battlefield any longer. I'm really hopeful right now. It seems like there's a big push on right now for a peace deal in Ukraine. And not just a regular peace deal, but probably a lasting peace deal. You know? So that's what's going on over there. I just can't, guys, I just can't get over this. President Trump invites Vladimir Putin to the United States. If you remember how cold relationships were between the Russia and the United States there, like say 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. What a sea change. This is unbelievable. I'm going to keep my eye on this story because this is really something. I think it's really something anyway. I'm impressed by this. Now, Zelensky came over. Well, Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, not Great Britain, but the United Kingdom. Oh, well, I guess it was pretty much the same thing. Came over and he was talking about he refused to back Canada against Trump's 51st state plan. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you what. I think there's more to this. A lot of people, when they first heard this, they thought it was joking or whatever. They thought it was kidding around. Trump making the Canada the 51st state and whatever. I don't think this is joking. I think that's why Starmer is not bringing it up or not. Well, I think is it more than that? Because they're using the word refusing here to back Canada. I got one thing to say about this, though. Down in the United States, they got 50 states. Uh, here in Canada, we got 10 states. We're not just one big lump here in Canada. But we don't call our states states. A lot of this is just about words. I mean, now in the United States, they call them a state. Here we call it a province. It's the same damn thing. So provinces are a little bit bigger than an ordinary state, except maybe here in Nova Scotia, we're a smaller province. We have tiny little provinces here in Canada. We have Prince Edward Island is a province. And it's about the size of a... Of course, it's the same way in the United States. They got, I think the District of Columbia is an awful tiny little state, like in New Hampshire, I think it is. There's some really tiny ones. What do you call it? I shouldn't say what do you call it, but Hawaii is an awful tiny state, But then there's some really big ones, like take a look at Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. I love Texas, guys. But everything's bigger in Texas. Texas is a huge state, but so's Alaska. Alaska's a whopper. And I'm going to tell you guys what. I used to live in Florida. Florida's quite a large state. Did you know if you want to drive, say, from Key West, and say you decide to drive all the way up into the Panhandle, like the whole length of the state, all the way from Key West to up to the Panhandle, you'd be driving like 1,000 miles. Seriously. So it's not a small state, Florida. And California's a big state too, But here in Canada, we have provinces. And these provinces are rather large, some of them. There's 10 of them. So I don't conceive of this being the 51st state. I conceive of Canada if that ever were to happen. it would have to be the 51st state, the 52nd state, the 53rd state, the 54th state, the 55th state, the 56th state, the 57th state, the 58th state, the 59th state, and the 60th state. So it'd have to be 60 states. It'd move from 50 states to 60. Because each of these provinces is a state. Now, I'm just bringing that up. I don't know if they've really thought of that even. But it's a valid point. You have to... You just can't lump it all and say, okay, it's one state, because we got individual provinces, just like states. And it'd be like, that would drive Canadians crazy if they didn't have, like, if they opened the borders and said this state's the same as that, this province is the same as that province. It causes all kinds of confusion, Anyway, guys, and each province is the same as the states. Each province has its own, like, minister of head minister chief. Each province has its own chief, just like each state in the United States has its governor. And it has its own governor, like its own governing, just like each individual state in the United States has its own governing body. It's the same thing. Anyway, guys, let's move on. That's I got bogged down a little bit with that. Taking a look now at silver price this week, and we've seen a drop in gold and silver. It's the price is corrected a little bit, little price correction. Naturally, in any market, this is actually a good thing. But this price correction could steepen a little bit, because we're going into a little period here where I can't conceive of it lasting very long. But it's a little period where a little bit of shaky ground, let's call it shaky ground, caused by the last administration's tightening measures that they went all hog for, and that always has a delayed effect. And that once that starts to turn down, things start to turn down a little bit. They're going to come in with the stimulus big time. I have no doubt they're going to do things in the monetary system that we haven't even heard of yet to pull things up by their bootstraps. But everything that they do, because they only got one tool, it's all inflationary. Everything that they do to try to fix a downturn in the economy will be inflationary. So that's what's coming, but it's going to take a little pause, take a little breather. Gold, silver, cryptos, a little breather. Everybody catch their breath a little bit, and it might last, I don't know, I'm going to guess, probably start in a month or two, and it probably last 3-4 months. Then when that turns, it's going to be gold, silver, and cryptos to the moon. But first, gold and silver are going to move. They're going to be the first movers, and I've been saying this for years. And then it's going to be the fears of inflation around the world, and it's already here, actually, but it's going to intensify greatly once the United States embarks on this new stimulus course for the economy. It's going to greatly increase it. And once the world starts to really get going again, and a lot of these things are going to really start to, if they can get the war in Ukraine solved, if they can get minerals deals done and everything, and start to bring industry back to North America, manufacturing back to North America, if they can do that, and I'm going to tell you, those tariffs are going to be a huge incentive. Yeah, do not underestimate the incentive for factories and stuff to say, hey, you know what? Taxes are cheap in America. Labor now went up in these other countries. When there was a period in time when they were outsourcing labor mostly in these cheap countries where they could get really, really cheap labor. And taxes were cheaper, and American workers wanted a lot, and taxes were high and everything. So they moved out. They could move right back in again. And so the industry in these other places in the world, in other words, the world's economy might start really buzzing along again, looking forward for a year or two down the road, And we probably relieved a little bit of the pressure initially of a World War III. Like I say, I figure we've moved down, like on a scale from 1 to 10. Uh, During that last administration, we moved up from like a 5 to a 9. We were almost on the edge of World War III. We were close. I was reading not newspaper articles, but articles online, and some of them when we were at the tensest situation at that period when the Rushnak missile was launched. I uh, the intermediate range missile during that period in time, some of the reports and articles were coming out were saying World War III has started and stuff like that. It was a short period of time, only lasted 3 or 4 or 5 days, when we were really tense. But now things have backed down. I think things have backed down from a 9 to an 8 on that scale of nuclear worrying about nuclear. I I don't think we were ever closer than we were. One of the things that they say that could bring on nuclear war, like a number of issues in the world that could trigger a nuclear war. And one of the things that they listed, now this was before the war in Ukraine, was a war in Ukraine. If the two superpowers got involved. So we're not out of the woods yet, but I do see a little light at the end of the tunnel. Okay? And I'm happy about that. Okay. Now, silver price has taken a hit. We're talking about silver here a little bit, and it's going to. We got to get through this little hurdle period. I'm going to guess. I'm going to say 4 to 6 months, probably into the future, and we're going to be past this period. This is kind of like, it's a little bit like an adjustment period. We just got through with an election. There's been a big sea change in policy in the United States. Like, it's a 180-degree turn change, and we're having to wait to see how all these things pan out. And give it a few months. But I tend to think that that's going to be the point when silver's going to and gold's going to really take off. I'll tell you, silver will actually do better if the world really takes off, the economy of the world really takes off and stuff, because they need it for everything. It's manufacturing. You know how many solar panels are going to be built if the economy around the world takes off? How they're just going to go into production high, wide, and handsome on stuff like that. That's if the Chinese doesn't invent free energy first. Well, let's not go there. You know, that would throw a change into everything if that were to happen. But they are getting close to fusion power. There's two types of nuclear power out there, guys. There's fusion and fission. And mostly what they're using now is fission. Fission's really dirty. It has all kinds of nuclear waste. Fusion is totally different. It's not dirt. It's very clean. It's pure, clean energy. It's creating a sun in a bottle, basically. And that's what the Chinese are working on right now. Now, Bitcoin's at 91,616. So it's back up into the 90s. It's starting to move a little bit right now again. But I don't really see it going big time until this period's over that I just told you about, 4 to 6 months of this. This is being caused. It's being caused by so many changes happening. Markets like stability. Money is spent in stability. Instability creates people that have closed pockets. They close their pockets. They get tight. Instability. And rapid change, creates instability. And give it 4 to 6 months, things settle down a little bit, and a lot of these changes might start to bring fruitage. That can start to move the economy upwards again. And just because you're having a hyperinflation and stuff like that, or just because the dollar is losing value and stuff, doesn't mean that the economy has to go down the toilet as well. And I've been saying this for a long time. It's much better to go into a hyperinflation with a strong economy than a weak one. And that last administration, all they ever did was weaken the economy by tightening. That's an economy killer. You raise interest rates, that slows the economy down. And I'm amazed that the economy didn't. I was really expecting it to slow down an awful lot more than it did. Because when Trump left office last time, the economy was ripping hot. And this is why it took so much to slow it down. During that 4-year period, they were tightening the screws on it like anything. And it's still a hard time slowing it down, but they did cool it down. But now we're going to see the after effects of that cool down. Plus, like I say, the changes coming in the economy and stuff, which creates a little bit of uncertainty. It's going to take a little bit for this to wear off, 4 to 6 months. And that's when we're really going to see gold and silver pop. Is when things start to heat back up again, and stuff. On this giant merry-go-round we call the economy is so, there's so many people out there try to predict the economy. The economy's a machine. If you study that machine long enough, after a while you start to understand. I don't care, like take me for instance. I mean, I haven't went to Harvard schools or anything like that, or any, I just high school education or whatever, right? But I've been studying this economy. You guys been here with me. I mean, I just don't produce these shows on the cuff. I take research every day. It's several hours. I mean, it's enjoyable for me. I like to look up and find out what's going on in the world, especially in the economy and stuff. But this is study and research. And it's ongoing for a period of years. All the time I've been on this channel, and even before, I fascinated by the economy. And if you study something long enough, you start to learn. It's like a machine. It's got all these cogs and wheels and stuff. And if you study it long enough, kind of like an engine mechanic, he listens to the engine. Now, an untrained ear, you can start up an engine, and they can't tell. There could be a knock in there, or a rattle, or a bump in the engine. They wouldn't know what in the heck it is, but you get a trained mechanic, he says, start the engine up. He's listening. He's listening to the cogs and wheels spinning inside the engine. And he says, okay, you got a valve. It's probably number 4 cylinder. And he goes over and he checks it is a number 4 cylinder. This is how they get, because they study the machine long enough, it gets so they know the intricacies of how it works. I've been studying this every day for like, the last 7 years. Yeah, of course I'm going to know a little bit of how it's turning and how it's twisting. It's a machine. It's a very complex machine. This is why so many economists get it wrong. Because in order to get it right, you got to study it. But they go there, get their big degree in law school or whatever, or go out and get this in finance, and then they say, oh, I don't have to study anymore. I got my degree. I don't have to learn anything more. My degree says I know it all. Anyway, just talking, guys. So we're looking at the what happened in the markets this week with the Dow. The Dow is actually up 601 points on the end of the week at 43,840. If this little period, like I say, the next 4 to 6 months, if the Dow's going to take a correction, this is probably going to be when she's going to do it. Because you got to understand the other side of this. When the money really starts flowing and the economy starts, if it does start to pick up a little bit, there's nothing like a stock market in a hyperinflation. It'll inflate. Just like the dollar will inflate, the markets will inflate. And so 43,000 Dows, could we be talking the Dow going over 100,000? I mean, the sky's the limit if you're getting a hyperinflating dollar. But during this next 4 to 6 months, we could see a little bit of a correction in the Dow. Crude oil is at 69.95 at the end of the week, so it ended the week under $70. And gold was down 28 on the end of the week. At the end of the week, it was at 28.67. So it's not a big move down for silver and gold, but we could see a little bit steeper correction until this, like I say, this period is over. And we're going to have to wait this out, this adjustment period. A change in government in the United States. Uh, Basically, mostly what it amounts to is an adjustment period. So the S&P ended the week at 59.54. NASDAQ at 18,847. Russell 2163, and crude oil at 69.95. Now bonds and rates. The bonds were down a little bit, but only fractionally. The 10-year finished at 4.2. It was down almost 1 basis point. And the U.S. 30 years at 4.48. And the dollar right now, she's riding high at 107.56. Took a little bounce upwards, 106 to 107 this week. But anything over 100 on the dollar index, I consider it high. But it's what the dollar's being compared against. It's a basket of currencies: Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, Japanese yen. There's a number of them in there. The euro makes up the biggest part. I think it's about 60% of the dollar basket that the dollar's being compared against. But they're all junk. So if you compare the dollar against junk, of course it's going to do well. Anyway, so the dollar could quite seriously, the dollar index could be climbing, going up. So from a 107 to 108, 109, 110, and the dollar losing purchasing power at the same time because of what it's being compared against. Thank you guys for listening to my show. You guys have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.